This week, we're taking a trip to Cleveland. LeBron James, the Rock Hall. Great food, diversity. But the best part of it all is the Polish boy. Hot Sauce Williams has been bringing this masterpiece of a sandwich to Cleveland area for over 60 plus years. No one knows where it came from, but we're thankful for it. However, in Cleveland, I know a couple things we're not quite thankful for. And one of them is a misogynistic piece of shit asshole by the name of Anthony Sowell. He terrorized Cleveland for over 4 years with assaults, murders, and so much more, preying on those less fortunate than others. So today, this is Crime and Dine, and this is the case of Anthony Sowell. So first things first, before we get into all the wonderful murder talk, if you will, Polish boys base potatoes. Russets, very easy. Just peel them off like this. Nothing complicated. You get a little skin on it, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Just keep going like that. It's amazing. Look at these little brown spots. It's fine. That's just called diversity. And so as we keep going here, we peel them off, you know, try to get the bulk of it, like I said. And we're only going to do 2. Not too many. We don't need that many. It's just a couple French fries. So with the equal salt, vinegar, and water, you'll be able to pull the starches out of this, and it just brings in a lot of flavor. A fucking lot of flavor. And we're just going to cut these up into French fries shaped things, keeping it really simple. You know, what wasn't very simple was the fact that in October of 2009, a gentleman, like I said before, by the name of Anthony Sowell, was under suspicion by the police after being reported by Latundra Billups. Now, what did this asshole do? What did she say happened? Well, as it turns out, this guy, who's already a known rapist, was charged with, accused of sexual assault. And so as the police go to approach and they try to get into the house, we find that Mr. Sowell, he's not there. He disappears. He's off the radar. It's crazy. He's actually gone for a multitude of days. We're talking from October 9th to the 31st. As if a fucking ghost just came in there and took him away. No one could see him. So the problem with that actually is he's been under suspicion for a while, but the police never acted because for some reason we can keep pedophiles in frickin' security housing in prison, but we can't take care of sex workers. I don't understand the conflation, but it is what it is. Anyway, he'd been reported numerous times for assaulting people. He had a background in it, and they just didn't seem to care. As well as he lived next to a sausage factory, interestingly enough. And at the sausage factory, you know, they process the stuff, they have bad meat. His house smelled like shit most of the time. They assumed it was coming from the sausage factory. Little did they actually know what was going on behind closed doors. So, that's about a cup. You just measure however we want to. Anyway, so after this had happened, they didn't draw 2 and 2 together. They didn't treat it that terribly. It's just a guy killing prostitutes. Fucking horrific. So afterwards, freaking 20 days, they find this guy. He never even left his street. Not one fucking time. This guy had been staying in an abandoned house for multiple days, accused of assault, and good God, what they find out is so much worse. So now we're on to the next part of the Polish boy, some barbecue sauce. We're going to just start it off. We got a little ketchup right here. Let's go about, that's pretty, about 1.5 cups. You know, nothing crazy. You want a little sweetness to this, but it's going to be really spicy towards the end. A little bit of spicy mustard. Let's go about 1/2 cup of that. Hit it with a boatload of hot sauce because, you know, it wouldn't be freaking spicy without it. We're going to do that. Liquid smoke, pretty easy. About a tablespoon of that. Little smoked paprika because, you know, Hungarians and stuff. And then lastly, a little bit of this house-made barbecue rub. Just going to sprinkle that in there. Top her off with a little chipotle pepper sauce. Again, extra added kick. Tiny whisk. Can't move out without it. We're just going to give that a nice little whisking, really get it together, right? And then as soon as we do that, I don't like the way this looks, but that's okay. We can just add a little bit of this apple cider vinegar. Just a little bit there. I'd say about 2 tablespoons is okay. I like a little kick, a little bitey. And then after that, again, as we get it all whisked together, power on. Let's go. And we're going to put this at a light simmer. You don't want it to go too long. Just build that flavor. Get that smokiness, that heat to really bring itself out. All right. You know what else brought itself out, though? Right? The police to get Anthony Sowell. After they apprehended him, they went to his little shop of horrors that he called his home. And in that house, they had found that there were 11 bodies of women strangled and decomposing all throughout. We're talking, he put them in the crawl space. He put them in his bedroom. He buried them outside. So many places for him to find all these women. It's basically a massive graveyard. Like, you definitely wouldn't want to stroll through that sausage factory we talked about previously and then end up in that asshole's backyard. It's not the Sandlot. He's not James Earl Jones. It's not going to be a fun time for you. The big part of it all is that after his apprehension, this dickhead, thinking everyone was stupid, decided to deny it for multitudes of hours. Multitudes. And the thing is, he had priors, a rape conviction. So if you think that putting someone in jail is actually reform, maybe we should think again. Because shortly after he got out of jail in 2007, this is when this guy started hurting people. Prostitutes, drug addicts, people who are less fortunate. It's horrific, it's terrible, and it's definitely not as good as this sauce is going to be, I'll tell you that much. Since we made that really delicious hot chili sauce that's going to go on the top of this bad bitch, going to probably need something to cool it off. A little coleslaw. So we're going to take some pre-made tricolor coleslaw. I'll cut corners all I want. No sense in buying a bunch. Just go ahead. We're going to use about half. I think half is perfect. Unless, again, you have company over. And then make as much as you fucking want to. The world's your oyster, dude. Shuck it. So we're going to do about half. We're going to throw that in there. Good old-fashioned mayo. Just going to grab a couple, I'd say about a half a cup of mayo. That looks about right. Maybe a little more because I'm fat. We're going to do that as well. Now, we made this house seasoning before. We put a little bit on, or in the barbecue sauce, rather. We're just going to sprinkle a smidgel of that in there. Hit it with a drop of liquid smoke just for an extra kick. A little bit of the spicy mustard. I'd say about a teaspoon to tablespoon, whatever you like. And we're going to hit it with a touch of this lovely paprika that we've been using the whole freaking time because, I mean, Polish and stuff. So we just do that. Go ahead and just give it a good mix around. Give it a good mix around. We just want to see that everything looks all right for now. And we also want to realize that we made a mistake. And the mistake was I motherfucking forgot vinegar. Need a little bit of that also to break down the mayonnaise, the fat in it, but just that little kick really freaking helps with the crunch. And just keep mixing it around. No big deal. No big deal whatsoever. But just you don't want to overdo it. You want to make sure you put it in the fridge. You want to make sure you keep it on ice all by itself. All by itself, like Mr. Sowell in a freaking interrogation room, where he sat there and after vehemently denying all those heinous acts that he did, the police had enough evidence found in the home to charge him with 74 counts of assault. That is not just the women they found to come forward, it is also the women that left evidence there. 11 counts of murder and 33 counts of tampering with evidence. If this guy isn't a real asshole, I don't know who the fuck is. So as they do that, Mr. Sowell decides that he's going to do what everyone else does. Are you going to go ahead, bang your head against the wall a little bit, speak in tongues and claim that you're crazy? That's exactly what the fuck he did. Insanity. But was it true? We'll find out. These have been sitting for about 30 minutes, those lovely russet potatoes, those french fries we soaked in that water and that vinegar and that salt. It's pulling all that starch out. Now, we're just going to give it a little dry. Nothing crazy. Little paper towel action, section them out. Even if you lose a guy, bring him back in the group. So we just keep doing that. Lay them all out. Nothing crazy. Make sure they're not touching though, because you really want to pat them dry. The drier they are, the crispier they're going to be, I promise you. Even those little shoestrings we're pulling out. Look at the crisp that's going to be on there. Absolutely wonderful. Now, some people would say you could season them before you go into the fryer, like especially if you have an air fryer, which we are going to use, but I like to season them after. That way, like, once that crisp hits and it's a little crackly, that really sticks in. So again, like I said, just a little bit of that, and we're just going to pat them dry. Roll it over, pat them dry. Lose the paper towel and continue to pat them dry. And then once those are dry, make sure your air fryer is preheated, or your fryer, even if you have time to do that. It's about 325 because we're going to double fry these. 325 for 7 minutes, 375 for 7 minutes. That way we get a nice crisp, but it's also soft in the middle. Right there, a little bit of just pork ribs, honestly, because we got to top this off with some nice shredded smoky pork. I know you didn't see me really prepare this, but it's just salt, pepper, a little bit of mustard, steam it with a beer in the oven, about an hour and a half, 325, unless you got a pork shoulder. They didn't have any, so we're using this guy right here. So, as I was saying with the insanity thing, what do you guys think? Was he an asshole or was he insane? Turns out just a fucking asshole, that guy. Anthony Sowell was deemed by more than 2 clinical psychiatrists and forensic psychiatrists that he was completely cognizant of his actions. And I don't know if anyone's aware of this in the state of Ohio if you don't live here, but when you are put up for first-degree murder, death penalty kind of happens. Hasn't happened in a while, but it does. So after 10 days of juror deliberation, his 10 jurors found him guilty of all counts and sentenced this piece of shit, this ripping garbage, kind of like this goddamn pork, to death. Now, after a couple of appeals, a couple times where he was like, I'm not too sure, this isn't fair, this isn't a trial where I had good representation, it was the media craze, it was happening in Cleveland because I killed people there. That's called fucking common sense, but we're not going to use that because this guy's basically the pure definition of a moron. But yeah, he went through his appeals process, and after such, everyone said, you sir, fuck off. You don't get to live. And so his death sentence was definitely and indefinitely upheld. Which is pretty fucking awesome because those ladies didn't even have a chance or a jury of people to figure out if they were going to live the rest of their lives. Instead, they just had a rapist and a crackhead decide that, you know what, you're not worth it. So fuck that guy in his entirety. Also, fuck this pork because it looks fantastic. And I'm going to put it in my mouth. All right, so let's wrap this up. Not only the case, but the food. So, as Mr. Sowell was deemed competent and not insane, he was sentenced to death. Through his appeals, everyone said, nah, you're not getting the fuck out, you're a monster. Which is completely reasonable, by the way. And so as he sat there, family coming in, everyone doing what they do, him just being the creep that he was, the days were numbered, and it turns out that he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Now, I wish I could tell you exactly what that was, but unfortunately, they did not disclose that in the information. However, fortunately, in February of 2021, that motherfucker died. Got what was coming to him. And everyone thinks it's a little bit heinous that he was sent to death and all that stuff like that, and he got to be judged upon by people like us. But at the end of the day, when you think he didn't have a choice, neither did anybody else he fucked with. Neither did anybody else he hurt. And so, in closing, thank God that in February 2021, it wasn't COVID, it was just bad karma that took this asshole out. So, here we have our assembly. Looks fantastic. Right there. If you guys have stuck with me all the way, it should look very similar. It's going to be delicious. And yeah, stay safe out there, guys. Let's get a bite. And we're gonna take a look at this fucking lovely cross section. Beautiful. Exactly what we're looking for. All layers, the crunch, the French fries, which are air fried, so you know what, they're a little crispier than you'd like. That's on you. I don't give a shit, but dig in. I don't know why they call it a Polish boy, they call it a sloppy sandwich, but it's fantastic. The flavors there, everything is wonderful. And you know what? I would eat it again, dude. Do it all. All right, everyone. Full Polish boy. Fantastic. Like, subscribe, comment, tell me if I muffed up, tell me the details, give us all you got. Can't wait to see you again. This has been Crime and Dine.